Lots going on in the world today. 5 interesting observations about the Drake versus Kendrick Lamar beef. Some would say we're in a new golden era of hip hop. We'll get to that. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dudes and dudettes, the sexy and the not so sexy, big children and little, I am the novelist, author, poet, Lamont Anthony Wright, aka Graffiti Bleu. Okay, basically, the first interesting thing to me is that the youth culture, and what I consider the youth culture is 35 and under at this point. The youth is having a certain name for the current rap civil war that we are in. I mean, I have not seen anything like this. I've been on the planet for a minute and there has the culture of hip hop has always had its share of freaking turbulence, but I've never seen anything like what we are currently seeing in 2024. And the wild thing about it is we are barely cracking summertime right now. We are barely cracking the summer, and it's anarchy. What's interesting is in this rap civil war that the youth are calling or referring to all of the hip hop activity. They're referring to it as the new golden era of hip hop. And I was like, And there are a lot of OGs like myself that are disputing this claim. And I believe that the youth got it right. I think the OGs need to shut the fuck up and listen for a minute, because you have at the tip of the spear of this rap civil war are the two titans, Drake, Drizzy Drake, Aubrey Graham, and Kendrick Lamar, aka K-Dot, aka Kung Fu Kenny, right? We've never had this large of artists in the game for as long as they've been in the game in the midst of a civil war. Jay-Z and Nas were both kind of roughly at the 4, 5, 6 year mark of their respective careers. Well, Drake and Kendrick have been doing it for over a decade now, closer to 15 years. Okay, so these guys have been longer and they have more accolades at this point. So, man, I can't dispute that this is the new golden era. Sidebar, I've never seen this amount of people making diss records. In this era, with this technology, I mean, there are so many diss records out there that I couldn't even count them if I wanted to. There's too many to count. I have been introduced to new artists just through their diss tracks. I'm just like, oh man, come to find out this guy has been rapping forever. Battle rap community is into it. All of the bloggers are activated. I'm watching reactions. I'm listening to the songs. I'm dissecting the songs. It's freaking crazy. The second interesting observation I have about this new so-called golden era of hip hop, aka / the rap civil war, is that these MCs turned podcasters don't break down lyrics. And I'm picking on 3 guys that, although they are entitled to their opinion, the same way I'm entitled to my opinion, I am thoroughly fucking disgusted at their non-journalistic approach to this whole fucking thing. 3 guys. A rapper by the name of Gilly, who has a podcast, a rapper by the name of Mace, M-A$E, aka Murder Mace, and a rapper named Cameron. Okay? Now, you're entitled to your opinion. And these guys were very dismissive, in my opinion, of one of the artists in the Drake versus Kendrick Lamar battle, which I don't got a horse in the race. I listen to Drake and I listen to Kendrick Lamar. And like everybody in the world, I listen to both of them for different reasons. I want to go to the club. I want to drive fast. I want to turn up. I listen to one person, or in that realm. I want to zone out. I want to take a long drive through the freaking California hills. I want to hang around the crib, and I just want something thought-provoking. I want something that's going to move my spirit and soul. I listen to the other guy. Right? Both of them are amazing. Both are geniuses in their own right. However, one cat is from Canada and one cat is from Compton, right? So, okay, so you would think that a couple of legends, legendary lyricists, you would understand that they would have their biases, right? Of course they would have their kind of bias. Everybody, you like what you like, right? But when they don't like somebody for whatever reason, or they have a preference for whatever reason, that's fucking cool. But how come a legendary lyricist can't just break down lyrics? You know something, I don't like the song, I prefer this guy or this song over this song, but when you break down this guy's lyrics, there is something undeniably genius going on about how this guy flows, the way he sets up his punchlines, the way he sets up the verse, the way every fucking diss song is a fucking Basquiat, a piece of art. You follow what I'm saying? So why in the hell do lyricists don't break down lyrics? You watch ESPN, right? You know what I'm saying? You watch the NBA on TNT. Shaq is critical of big men. Of course he would be, because he played ball and he was one of the greatest centers of all time. He is one of the greatest centers of all time. So of course he would break down, if a center is stinking it up in his opinion, he's going to break down why. Same thing with Charles Barkley in his perspective position. Somebody stinking it up on the boards, somebody stinking it up at power forward, he tells you why. Or in the reverse, if somebody does excellent at point guard, for example, Kenny Smith will tell you why. Ooh, I don't like his game. I don't think he's that tough, but he's got a masterful handle. This is what's good, this is what's not. Not Cameron, not Murder Mace, not Gilly. If they don't fucking like the song, fine. Break it down. Why? They don't say shit. Oh, Gilly, oh man, this is corny. Oh, that's why we tuning in? We tuning in. You're right. You have your right to feel that it's corny, but you can't break it down why. You can't articulate that. That's why Joe Budden's kicking y'all asses. Because right or wrong, Joe could at least articulate his feeling, what he's talking about. And then he has the humility to then turn around and talk about, well, you know, I could be wrong on this one, but this is what I feel. I don't think I'm wrong about this. I might not know what the fuck I'm talking about, but this is what it is. And just because you dress up in a suit doesn't mean you're not a monkey. Huh? The third interesting observation I have about the Drake and Kendrick Lamar versus is that how unbelievably biased the coverage of all this is. You know what I mean? And look, I get it. You know, when you're young and you have your favorite rapper, singer, drummer, whatever that is, I get it. You know what I mean? I understand. I understand the fight for that, but but this war in particular, just a rap. The laws of engagement have changed. Once upon a time, a rap battle meant I'm going to try to rap better than you. But there are so many other aesthetics to it nowadays. I find it very interesting on what's going on. And one of those aesthetics are the amount of just obvious bias. I wrote on Twitter the other day, I was just giving Kendrick Lamar a compliment by how he set up the sexy red bar in the diss song called Euphoria. You know what I mean? The setup line, the line before, he said, I believe when you stand next to sexy red, I believe you see two bad bitches, right? I'm paraphrasing. That wasn't exactly the line, but basically the line. He set the line up with the line before it saying, can I bleed him? Yes. I don't think it's a reach because I'm just like, well, if the line before the sexy red line was bleed, and that was a setup because when you bleed, what is the first thing you see? Sexy red. I believe when you see sexy red, you see two bad bitches. You got two eyes, you see two bad bitches. Red, bleed, red, two. It was a masterful freaking setup. I just tweeted it. I think Drake, until tonight, was cooking. And he was even cooking tonight too. This is the night that Family Matters by Drake dropped, and then Meet the Grams dropped in about 45 minutes later by Kendrick Lamar, about an hour, and it was crazy. And freaking Drake was cooking on that record, man. That record would have knocked out J. Cole. It would have knocked out Common. It would have knocked out Meek Mill. It would have knocked out Big Sean. That verse ain't knocking out Kung Fu Kenny. Kung Fu Kenny came back out maybe around an hour, maybe a little under an hour later with this freaking Ether track, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, called Meet the Grams, and it took all of the steam out of Drake's record. So that shit is crazy. So it just seemed to split the internet right down the middle. It was just like the dialogue on all of the socials is so scathing. You know what I'm saying? If some people say, there is a saying, there's a difference between a fan and a stan, where a stan is such a overly fanatical fan that they can't see the artist they love in a bad light. And I get it. I understand. When you have that kind of attachment to that. I had an attachment to the freaking New York Knickerbockers, right? Back in the freaking 90s, you know, but after you get to the finals and or semifinals and or conference finals and you come up short, 1 game away from a championship, 4 games away from a championship, 5, 7, 8, whatever that. I used to be heartbroken when the Knicks lost. Now I'm just like, I could watch it as a true fan and not be totally in my feelings because I'm just like, shit, I was so heartbroken. What are you gonna do? And ironically, as soon as I stopped giving a fuck, the Knicks advanced to the next round. Maybe I should have stopped caring in 95. The war of two cultures. You know what I mean? It's divided down there's so many lines that the beef is divided onto, which makes it very interesting. There's this light skin versus dark skin element, backpack versus bling rap. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. It is just interesting. The fourth interesting observation about the Kendrick and Drake war, the Drake and Kendrick versus, is the fact that there was a missed opportunity, I believe, that was missed by Drake. When he had the diss song, when he dropped the diss song Tailor Made. I think people talking about the use of AI or Drake's use of AI and artificial intelligence filter what have you, where he was rapping as if he was Tupac Shakur, and he was rapping as if he was Snoop Dogg, E-Dog. And there are a lot of people, a lot of fans and stans of Kendrick that was trying to roast Drake for that. I thought it was amazingly creative. And I thought the only reason why it wasn't well received was of two things. One, he didn't reach out to the Shakur estate and say, this is what I want to do. And the second was the presentation. Okay? Now, if you're going to be creative enough to say, man, I'm going to use technology and say, you know what? Because it's taken Kendrick so long to answer one of my diss records, I'm just going to poke him. I'm going to poke Kendrick Lamar by saying, I'm going to take a Tupac song. I'm going to take Tupac's voice and Snoop's voice and try to goat you a little bit. You're supposed to be the West Coast savior. Well, let's prove it. And on surface level, this is actually a brilliant idea. But when he was rapping and put the Tupac filter on, and he was rapping and he put the Snoop Doggy Dogg filter on, the cadence was obviously not the perspective rappers. So I think if Drake would have took an approach like he rapped where he was copying he was copying Tupac's cadence. If Drake was copying Tupac's cadence, which I wouldn't imagine is that hard to do. There's so many references. You feel that? I mean, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? About how he breaks it down. If he would have wrote his rap as and flowed like Tupac would flow, even if it sounds dated. You know, freaking Tupac died in freaking what, 96? So it's going to sound like a flow from 1996. But there's so much source material to pull it from, he would have been in there. It ain't hard to imitate Snoop's flow. You follow what I'm saying? So if he would have rapped how Snoop rapped, if he would have rapped how Tupac rapped, and then framed the song like he had this dream or whatever, or he said, you know, I was daydreaming, and while I'm sitting here waiting for you to answer me, I can only imagine what, if Tupac was here, what he would say to you and me, something to that effect, and paint it like, hey, I know this is fiction. I know Tupac is not here to say this to you, and I know Snoop would never say this to you, but I imagine if they could get your ear, that this is what they might say. If he framed it like that, and then it's I think that Drake probably wins this battle, or at least that round, because it'd been just like, man, here's the thing about technology. Here's the thing about everything in life. Made to help man. You are going to either use it or it is going to use you. Life is good. You're using it. I think that it's like he found a new toy and he just used it and he didn't finish the job. If he was going to use his own cadence, then he could have not bothered with the AI. Finish your food. And the fifth most interesting observation about this beef between two titans, Drake and Kendrick Lamar, is that the battle is happening faster than the internet. Okay? It's happening faster than the internet. By the time I record this podcast episode and upload it, somebody may have dropped another diss track. That's how fast it's freaking moving. You know what I mean? They went from last week, it was just crazy. Last week, people were just like, well, where the hell is Kendrick Lamar? We need an answer. It's been 17 days, although it's been 21 days for Aubrey Graham to respond to the Like That record, right? You know what I mean? People was holding Kendrick Lamar's feet to the fire. People were holding Kendrick Lamar's feet to the fire. And since this past Tuesday, it is now May 4th. We are now going into Saturday. Since Tuesday, Kendrick Lamar has dropped 3 diss records. I'm not taking anything away from Aubrey Graham because he dropped back to back, you know what I mean, last week, you know what I mean, dropping push-ups and Taylor Made back to back, you know what I mean, talking about where's Kendrick, where's he at, you know what I mean. And then Tuesday, Kendrick drops Euphoria, and then he drops 616, you know what I mean, or followed that up. What was that? Thursday, early Friday? No, he drops 616 early Friday. Drake, people were suspicious that he was going to drop something Friday, and then he dropped, Family Matters Friday night, somewhere around 9 o'clock, and then Kendrick comes right back, and that's crazy. That you're talking about, what's that, 5 or 6 diss songs in 2 weeks over 2 major freaking artists? That's crazy. You know what I mean? And that's just it. I know Drake is going to respond, but after I heard, I'll finish with this. After I heard this diss track tonight, which was called Meet the Grams, and after I've seen this back and forth for what I've seen it, and my bias is for the art. People who know me, who are going to watch this, know that. You folks that don't know me, I'm an artist. You know what I mean? And that being said, it's not that Drake doesn't have an extreme level of artistry to what he does. Jesus, the man is genius with his flow and his melody and all that. That Kendrick shit I heard tonight, last night, Friday night, that shit is different. That shit felt like a movie. That shit was spooky. That shit felt like Drake was dying. That shit was scary. I remember when MC Shan and KRS-One were beefing. And I remember being at a Hollis basement party in Hollis, Queens, in the middle of the beef between the Bronx and Queensbridge. And I remember when they played The Bridge Is Over, and I remember that energy of how the record was so good that everybody played it, especially Queens DJs, at the height of the beef. And although it pained me to hear Queens dying, the record was that hot. So I fuck with Kendrick heavy. You know what I mean? I can only imagine how bad Toronto must feel after hearing that record. That shit is crazy. I don't think this video might not age well if Drake drops a nuclear bomb on Kendrick by the time I either upload this or whatever. I don't see how that fucking Kendrick record was so cold. I don't see how he answers this.